Hello there. Welcome to this masterclass on how to say no without guilt. It's a subject that I find comes up again and again with the women that I'm working with. And it's also something close to my heart, as it's something that I noticed in myself, that it was sometimes very hard to say no. And it left me feeling more anxious and unable to say what I really wanted to say and have the space and time to do the things I really wanted to do. So, this masterclass goes through some steps that can help you identify, but also understand when you're saying yes when you mean no and what you can do about it. And at the end of it, I'll share some of my examples as well. So let me share my screen so we can start the masterclass now. And at the end, if anyone wants to put anything in the chat, they can. And to remind everyone that this is going to be recorded and shared later too. So welcome to the masterclass, and you're exactly where you need to be if you are somebody who struggles to say no, or if you're somebody who finds that you're doing a lot for other people and it means there's no time for you, that you feel restless maybe or stuck in your own life because you're not doing the things that align fully with your values and what's important. So if you're waiting until everyone else is happy until you're doing the things you want to do and you're appeasing other people, you're saying yes when you mean no, you're not giving yourself that clarity or that confidence to live your life the way you want to live it in a way that feels authentic. My mission is to really help and support women with confidence. And how saying no really marries up with this is because if we're not really saying what we need to be saying, we're slowly grinding out our confidence. We're making ourselves feel less able to speak up, less visible to ourselves because we don't really understand what we want because we're so used to saying yes to other people. We're not giving ourselves the boundaries, not giving ourselves that space to understand what we really want and hear that. And that's my story. So I'm a therapist. I've worked in therapy for many years, but at the same time, I was a people pleaser for many years, always putting other people's needs first. At work, that's okay. But in my private life, in my home life with my partner at the time, and even with my children, I would be saying yes to them when actually it was more important that I say no and have some elements of myself that I put first. And over time, I've learnt that lesson. And so that for me feels really important that I share what I've learnt with other people. So with my background and voice as a therapist, but also moving into the realms of coaching women with confidence to be authentic in who you are and have your own identity and be confident and comfortable with that is my mission. So that's why the two things marry up so well together. So today's session, what are we going to be covering? First of all, it's understanding when it's happening, recognizing that I'm saying no when I mean yes, and saying yes when I mean no. So slowing down and hearing that inner voice that maybe not marrying up. So if I'm saying yes and I want to really say no, it's understanding when that's happening. So that's the first step. And the second is then identifying, well, why is that happening? There may be some underlying old patterns that are keeping you stuck. And I'm going to go through a number of the common ones that show up again and again that might be quite helpful here for you to sort of see whether that resonates for you. And thirdly, it's about how we practice speaking up and saying no. And that ability to do that and starting small and building on that really helps with our confidence and helps us to change and challenge the narrative of what it means to say no. And all of that together, so when we're doing all of those things, we're making decisions then in a different way. We're making those decisions to say yes or to say no based on what's aligning for us and our values and what matters to us. Seeing the bigger picture and seeing us within that bigger picture. That's the important thing. So that's what we're going to cover today. So let's look at this first step. It's where I start with a lot of my clients, and for whatever aspect or problem people are coming to me with, understanding ourselves, understanding the problem, and being able to sit with that problem, accept this is what's happening, is a really helpful and useful step to start with. When we can truly hear that things are not right, not beat ourselves up about it, but accept, okay, this is where I'm at right now, helps us then to make the changes that are necessary to move forward in a different way. So we need to slow down. And sometimes it's about the interactions and when someone's asking us something and wanting us to say yes, and actually inside we really want to say no. If we slow everything down, we're not constantly just reacting all the time, but slowing down, not being in the doing active mode that can drown out what we're really wanting or saying to ourselves. If we slow everything down, we have that opportunity. And starting with the breath is where I always start with people. And so what I would suggest to you is practicing your breath work when you're in interactions with people, just slowing down before you reply. Even if you're not at a point where you want to say no quite yet, but you want to slow down the interaction. This slowing down means that you are acting from a place where you're showing yourself that you are leading yourself, that you are showing up for yourself and recognizing here is a point where I could make a change. So pausing, taking a breath before you reply, even if you're not ready to make that change in reply, this is the first step. So that slow breath in, so breathing in, I suggest for 3, breathing out for 5. So you're slowing down that out breath is really important. And asking yourself, what is my heart asking for right now? What is it I really want? A question like that can really help you to understand that the automatic is happening, but there's something else going on, something else I could be listening to. Journaling is really helpful for this stage as well, when we're starting to really learn and understand what the problem is, what's happening here, what happened in this interaction that I just quickly said yes to it, and I really wanted to say no. I've slowed it down a bit. What was happening in my body, what was happening in my emotional state, and what were my thoughts saying to me. Write that down, maybe for a week, seeing what's happening, seeing how that can help you to understand the problem, the depth of it for you. And that will help us in step 2. So step 2 is identifying the old patterns that might be keeping you stuck. And what I notice with women with difficulties with speaking up and saying what they really want to say, feeling stuck in their own life, not being really congruent with their own values, feeling underconfident, wanting more from life, and at a crossroads where it doesn't feel like I'm living the life that I could be, I'm not living to the potential that I could have. These 3 areas are common and come up quite often within the client sessions that I'm working with. So I thought these were the relevant ones to discuss today. And the first is people pleasing. And again, like I said earlier, that's something that I notice in myself. Always putting other people first, worrying about letting people down, not being able to feel comfortable if somebody else wants you to do something and you fear that they might not like you anymore, have negative thoughts about you, people pleasing. And I worked with somebody called Claire in the last year who came with this exact issue. She was somebody who worked in a big corporation. She had a middle management job, and what she found was that people would come to her all the time. So her peers, people at the same level as her, so her managers as well, people would come and ask her to do things. And she would always willingly step in to help. She would be saying yes because she thought at the time it felt that she was being valuable to the team. She was easy to work with, that she was being helpful. So these were her sort of patterns of thinking and beliefs around it. But underneath, she was exhausted and drained, and she came to me because she felt overworked. She wasn't seeing her friends. She felt quite depressed. She wasn't living the life she wanted to. So there was a difference, a mismatch between being that helpful, valuable person at work and not actually having a valuable life for herself. The impact of that was that she never did what she wanted to do. And underneath that was a fear of not being liked. That was her fear, that she would be seen as not valuable, but people wouldn't like her anymore. So we changed that around, and she learned how to say no. And that meant that it was more fair and equitable at work. So her manager would seek out other people to give tasks to and not come straight to Claire with those tasks. Because it's natural, isn't it? When someone always says yes, you're going to go to them automatically because it's easier to do that. It gets it off your task list. If someone's going to say yes, I just pass it on to Claire. She always gets it done. But the reality is there's other people who could take up some of that slack as well. So saying no is actually doing others a service too, if we look at it like that. So that's people pleasing. Overthinking is another one. And we might not say, well, how does that link with not being able to say no? But the reason is that sometimes we struggle to say no because it brings up all the fear of what might happen next. The consequences of saying no lead to an overdrive of overthinking, and that feels very uncomfortable for people. And so it feels easier just to say yes rather than go through all of that struggle of the scenario building and overthinking about what people think of me and what might happen next and the doubts of, what's going to come back to me because I've said no this time. So that overthinking element that people have can really interfere with the ability to say no for that reason. And this happened for Julie. She was asked to do things that were beyond her capacity. And she really didn't have the skill set to do those things. And it felt very uncomfortable. But she feared saying no because she was more worried about what other people would think and what that would mean about her career, mean about, well, if I say no now, they'll never ask me again. And they're going to be disappointed in me. They're going to doubt my value. All of those things became something that would play out again and again. So it was easier to say yes. But of course, the difficulty with saying yes was the stress and the uncomfortableness because there was that inability to do the task in a way. So it took a lot more time, effort, and a lot of stress to manage that. And really underneath that was difficulty speaking about boundaries of what I'm capable of doing at this time and what I'm not. And then finally, perfectionism. And again, how does perfectionism relate to the difficulty saying no? Well, it can come out in two different ways. For some people, perfectionism means it's really hard to delegate. It's like, well, I can do it better than anybody else. If I delegate something, then I'm not going to be sure that it's going to be done to the standard I think. And the same is if somebody asks you to do something. Well, I better say yes, because if somebody else does it, then it might impact on the standard or quality of it. I can't trust that other people can do it to the same ability as me. But if your perfectionism means that your standard is too high and you're placing too much value on the output, then you're not valuing yourself or the team itself in the way that's helpful. The other way that perfectionism can come up is the idea, and this is what happened to another lady that I was working with called Sarah, that when she felt that she was asked to do something, if she said no, that would be a representation of her, that somehow her view of herself would be impaired, that somehow she was not then as good as she wanted other people to see her as. If that makes sense. So it really interfered with that because her sense of self was, I must be seen as perfect. And anything less than that is really uncomfortable. So she was saying yes to everything because she didn't want to show that she maybe didn't have room or time for something. So these three areas, if that resonates for you, understand that these things can be because of past experiences, our life events, and they can lead us into these strategies and ways of handling situations, but they can change. So when we, again, if we're journaling and we're recognizing when we're saying yes, when we mean no, asking this question can be really helpful. Whose approval have I been prioritizing over my own well-being? So when you're noticing it, is this people pleasing? Whose approval am I prioritizing over my own well-being? And just see what comes up. And again, when you're writing things down, I always say to people, it's really helpful to write it down, but without criticism. So not being critical of yourself, being curious, understanding, I'm doing this to make changes. This is a really helpful stage. It might be uncomfortable. We're not saying it's going to be easy necessarily, but it's really helpful. So if you come in with that approach, treating yourself with kindness and understanding that I'm caught up in this way of thinking and my mindset is in this at the moment, but it can change. So, how to speak up and say no without guilt. This is the part where I would suggest once you understand that you're saying yes when you mean no, understanding there might be reasons why, maybe I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I really find it hard to let others do things. I find it hard to share in case I make a mistake or things don't go as well as expected. Then this next part is about how do I want to make the changes? And saying no has a meaning for you based on one of those maybe three areas of perfectionism, people pleasing, or because you're fearing what other people think and overthinking. But if we reframe what saying no means to start with, then we can start enacting and changing and challenging the behavior of saying no when we mean no without the guilt. So what does a reframe look like? Well, one of them might be, I value boundaries. I want to show myself that I can stick to a boundary to protect my peace, to give me some space so I can do the things I really want to do. So saying no has a meaning then that's important and valuable for me. It's protecting my peace. It's a powerful act of self-respect. So again, a meaning, every time I say no, I'm respecting myself. And if I respect myself, others can respect me more too. If you have that in your mindset, then you're more able in the moment to be able to make that change. So writing that down. So again, reframing, no is a powerful act of self-respect, or no is showing my boundaries and protecting my peace. Or no is meaning my confidence is going to improve. No means I'm modeling this for my children too. Any one of those. So find what matters and what has meaning in that reframe for you. Then we come on to practicing that. No feels hard because of this old conditioning. And it also often I find comes up because either one or two things, the fear of disappointing others, letting them down, that was certainly mine, or the fear of conflict, that people won't like it or won't like me, and they will argue with me. They will put me down. They will make things very difficult for me. So there's a belief, a structure there that might be happening, why it feels hard. But often what we think is going to happen, we haven't really got the evidence for it. We might have had one experience back in the day, but that's not necessarily what is likely to happen right now. It may do, but the chances are not so high as the way we think about them. So once we've understood and reframed what it means to say no, we understand it's hard and there's fear there. But in order to change, we need to go through the fear and start to do things differently. So practicing in front of the mirror saying no and having simple phrases that you can use to help you with that saying no. And I've got a couple here that I wanted to share. There's many others and there's lots of things you can try out. But if people are coming to you and you say, no, I can't do that report right now, saying no without over explanation is the first point. So practicing, no, I can't do that report right now. I haven't got time. Without, I've got 5 reports. I've got things to do for this person, this person. I'm really sorry. I've got to tell you that I would try and do it if I could, but I really can't do it right now. All of that over explanation means that you're not showing your confidence in yourself, that you trust that your no means no. And that's going to lead to the boundary not being so clear, and other people may be testing and pushing that forward. The other thing that to practice in front of the mirror is not overly apologizing. Now, you might say it once. I mean, you don't want to be rude about things, but it's when I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry I can't do it. I'm really sorry. Are you okay? I really, really apologize. I really can't do it. I'm really sorry. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I can't do this for you today. You see how that overly apologizing, I know I've over-egged it, but some people say sorry many, many times within a sentence and they're blind to it. They don't even realize it's happening because they're so used to saying sorry all the time. And again, that's a confidence thing, a self-esteem thing often as well. But practicing not saying sorry overly, not apologizing more than once. It's okay to say, I'm sorry on this occasion, I can't do that report for you. I have a full day, full capacity at the moment. That's not over explanation and it's not giving too many apologies. Now, if someone pushes back on that, this is another phrase or two that you can practice. So you're not over apologizing, you're not over explaining, you're being clear about what you can and can't do. You're practicing that. And try saying this. So if someone pushes back and keeps asking you, I know you said you can't do that report, but I really need you to do it. Can you do it for me today? What about tomorrow? Can you do it? I can't do it. You do it much better than me. Can you do it? Saying this can be really helpful, or words to this effect. I understand that's what you'd like, but my answer hasn't changed. So can you see how you're feeding back? Yes, I hear you that you want me to do it, but I haven't changed what I'm saying to you. You haven't heard me. Can you see how clear that is? There's clarity and a boundary set up in that. Another way of responding is to say, thanks for asking again, but I'm clear on my decision. So again, what you're transferring to that person is that you don't mind them asking again, but you haven't changed your mind. It's okay for you to ask again, but it's okay for me to still say no. So there's no anger, there's no frustration. It's a clear directive, neutral energy, and that can often diffuse any situation faster than trying to explain away why you can't do something. It's just clear and to the point. So from practicing this in front of the mirror, from knowing why it's important to you that you say no, practicing some phrases when you know there's certain people who keep pushing back, people start to learn that these boundaries are intact and they start to respect and not ask and push in the same way that they maybe have done before. So what we know is that often our worry or thinking about what people think of us interferes and gets in the way of what reality is. So by practicing and speaking up, we're learning that people don't react and respond in the way we thought, and it's easier over time, and it lessens any anxiety or guilt you might have or the discomfort of initially when you start saying no. And that's been the experience when I'm working with people. Once you start, it becomes easier and easier. And it's something that's enacting that trust in yourself and ability in yourself. So I hope that's helped you. So I really invite anybody who wants to have more information or wants to speak to me about any of these 3 steps in more depth. I'm really happy to do that. And I will invite you to that opportunity. So the key takeaways from this masterclass. Number 1, slow down, pause, take a breath, listen to that inner voice. What are you really saying? Write it down, journaling that. From that step, then you might be able to identify and recognize old patterns that come up again and again. That there's certain situations that lead you to not be able to say no when you mean no. Certain ways of thinking that are interfering with that process. And then practicing saying no with more confidence, with a neutral energy space, and not overly apologizing and not over explaining, but being clear to build that trust in yourself. So I do invite you to book a call with me and invite you to have a discussion so that we can talk through some of these things and see whether you're ready to make some changes for yourself. A clarity call comes without any strings attached. It's really a chance for you to understand more about yourself, how I might be able to help you in that, and how I can maybe move you forward with authentic confidence and tips. I do run an authentic confidence framework course, and that's something that I've invested a lot of my knowledge and enthusiasm into. And that's something I can discuss with you further on the call, but it's not the reason why I want to have the call. It's really to help and share some of the information that I have with you. So if you do want to have a call, if you book that by the end of this week, by the 1st of August, then I will, as a special bonus, give you one of my free guided meditation audios. They're not free, but I will give them free to you, and it's one on confidence. So if that seems interesting to you, why not book a call? Let's have a chat. I'd love to hear more about you and help you in any way I can. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you found this valuable. Just remember that saying no is an act of integrity to yourself, that you can start in small ways, practicing saying no and building on that into areas of your life that are the more challenging elements and challenging relationships. And saying no is not selfish. It is about self-worth. It is about trusting in yourself. It is about showing up for yourself and having your own voice. So thank you again. My name's Carrie Dubber, Authentic Confidence Framework. I hope to speak to you soon. Take care.